Excellent. Bob, over to you, my friend.
All right, thanks a lot, Matt. Hello, everybody. Bob Sybydlo. It's nice to, I'm very excited to be here. I had some just outright hilarious computer issues. Someone had stepped on my computer on a plane. I'm using a backup, so I had some issues kind of porting some of my stuff over the template. So I've kind of dialed things back a bit, but let's just move ahead and buckle up and we'll have some fun as we kind of get through this. Now, everybody's head is in my way, so I can't see everything, but basically we're going to be talking about two things. So yes, like Matt said, B2B marketing, managing your own deliverability in that space and just understanding the B2B space a little bit more. The B2B space is something that I'm quite interested in. It makes up in many cases very large percentages of mailing lists across different industries. And I've worked a lot in the pharmaceutical space, for example, where we would see B2B lists as high as half the list, as high as 50% of the list is this B2B population. So I'm going to define what I'm talking about and what that's all about and how to sort of maintain success and be successful in that space. Sorry if I'm talking a little quickly. I just want to make sure I kind of cover everything here. But, again, I will try to check myself as we go through. So again, just a few items that we'll be discussing. Let's just not spend time on this. We'll just barrel ahead. So once again, Bob Sybydlo, I've been in this space for over 16 years. And, in that time, there's reoccurring challenges that I've continuously seen and encountered. And that's, working with different clients from across the industry, across different industry verticals. And, the most common things that have come up in that time is keeping up with technology and capabilities of the technology that's either available or that's available in the space or that's available to them currently, how to use it, what to do with it. How to manage data. So everything from like, what do I do with my big pools of data to how do I integrate new data sources? What data can I get my hands on that I'm not yet is a constant question that comes up. And of course, deliverability, something that I'm deeply passionate about and is something that any digital marketer, email marketer should really be aware of and have, a basic understanding of. And we're going to talk about these three things just sort of as we go forward here. So what do we mean when we say B2B, right? So we're specifically talking about that gray population right there. When you look at your mailing list and you break it down by domain, you'll see that, you'll typically have a lot of Gmail subscribers, your Yahoo subscribers, Hotmail subscribers, all the subsidiaries under there. And then it sort of breaks down to the major ISPs, whether you're in Canada, you're in the States, wherever you may be. But then there's this large chunk of domains and users that kind of are, below that, say, top 30 domain space line. Who is that? Who are they? How are they different from who's above that 30 that top 30 line? And how do we how are we being successful there? So in this example, I mean, like I said, between 10 and 50% of your mailing list might be this B2B universe. Now, when it comes to the B2B space, engaging with those people and how they react to digital communications and all that is different. Not in all cases, but in many cases from the B2C universe, which is, again, your Gmails, your Yahoos, your consumer-free mailboxes, right? So we're talking about not just marketing to businesses, but also to private domains and to, more obscure domains or domains internationally. They could be really anywhere. So we're really talking about this slice of the pie here. All right, so again, B2C will often be talking about our consumer email addresses, your Yahoos, your Gmails, anywhere you can sign up to get something free. I threw hey.com in there because they're kind of interesting when they came out and a lot of the technology that they're pushing. And then in the B2B space, we're talking about domain registrars and mail exchange server hosts, your GoDaddies, your Office 360s, G Suite, of course, has a big market share of space there. So this is really who we're talking about when we say B2B, these businesses and who are they hosting their mail servers with. Those mail servers. And, again, if you're a small business or you're just a personal professional, you go to GoDaddy.com, whatever it may be, you register a domain, you set up an email address. Now you're sort of under the GoDaddy exchange server, which means GoDaddy spam filtering technologies, GoDaddy's rules for mail filtration. So many more players are in the game once you start exploring that B2B space. Spam Resource, put out this chart just this month. It was tremendous. I got it in the presentation right away. You can kind of see that, who are the B2B mailbox providers and what is sort of their market share. Google is quite high in that list again. And that's interesting because if you're experiencing deliverability issues or something like that with your Gmail population, well, that's just going to bleed right into anyone who's hosting their exchanges with Google or with Microsoft or with GoDaddy, and then sort of, back the other way. If you're neglecting your B2B population, what's going on there, those issues are going to bleed into what's happening into that larger domain space and impact your Gmail subscribers, your Yahoo subscribers, and Hotmail subscribers, etc. So we now can see that there's just, so many different hosts that could exist, that could be hosting domains, that could be filtering emails any which way. So it's really important when it comes to being successful in the B2B space that you're sort of following not just industry best practices, but you're sort of very aware of your own mailing lists of what's happening. And we're going to get under the hood and kind of talk about how to do that. So what's unique about the B2B landscape, again, compared to that consumer space? Let's just kind of talk about that a little bit. So firstly, we often see, again, there's always exceptions to the rule, but we often see there's a lot more desktop users rather than, mobile or tablet users. Again, speaking for pharmaceuticals or even in the financial industry, you are really seeing a lot more desktop utilization. So it's just a different type of way of interacting. These people are typically at work. So, when they're getting emails, if they're marketing related communications, everything has a higher probability of just seeming like junk to them. So important to keep communications very concise, very to the point, very timely. These are, very important. They make a big difference rather than, consumers or, just average people who are checking their email whenever, when they're walking to the bus, on the train, doing whatever they're doing. Now, new domains appear and go dormant all the time. Many times, if companies are acquired or companies shut down or companies rebrand, or what we saw a lot in the pharmaceutical space, we'd see these rebrandings of healthcare facilities or whatever it may be, where entire domains would just go dormant because they just changed all their email addresses to some new name. So now you have just lost perhaps several dozens, if not maybe 100 people, because they changed their domain, and you have no way of being notified of that or keeping up with that. So it kind of puts the onus on you to keep your mailing lists clean when these things happen, because you don't want to inflate your undelivered rates, your bounce rates, and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to keep barreling ahead here just to stay to keep sensitive of time. Moving on, there's a lot more potential for spam filtering between the sender and the receiver. So, if you're emailing a corporate domain, you're going to email someone at, walmart.com or, loblaws.ca or whoever it may be. There's a lot more spam filtering that happens in place because, these companies have a lot more need to sort of, protect their company's IPs and protect their businesses and their employees. So you'll see not just, the spam filters that would exist with like a GoDaddy or, Microsoft Exchange, but also additional email filtration technology can sit on top of that. They can have their own settings on email that are much more aggressive than you would typically see at a free mailbox. So you're going to see a lot less, spam folder delivery, and a lot more it's either inbox or doesn't get delivered at all. So it's a lot more black and white. You could potentially see less standardized SMTP log information coming back from when you send here. Now, I'm not going to get into the depths of what SMTP logs information is. Any deliverability fanatics out there will kind of know what I'm talking about here. But what that means is when you send an email to anyone, you receive an SMTP log back. And those typically follow a specific standard that tells you if it was sent, if it bounced, or something else. In the B2B space, you get less standardized logging. So things can get logged in a different way, or often can get logged as, unknown. We're not sure what happened here, if this was delivered, if it bounced, why, that kind of stuff. So a lot of that can happen. Lastly, as I mentioned, there's a lot less fluctuation between inbox, spam folder, and quarantine deliverability. We're usually dealing with black and white, inbox or did not arrive at all. And then a broader array of deliverability issues can exist. And what occurs is why certain issues are happening and what's being done about it is much harder to track and understand, because you're dealing with so many different domains, so many different spam filters, so many different things that if you can go crazy just trying to resolve every little issue. And when it comes to marketing and managing emailing lists, we try to sort of move quickly and work efficiently. You don't have time to sort of barrel into each problem individually. So it's more important to kind of look at your B2B space as how can I manage everything that's going on there as healthy as possible. And we'll talk about how that works. Okay, so let's just do a quick deliverability overview. This applies equally to both B2B and B2B and B2C, and just a few of the best practices there. So the most important thing to understand, and I'm not going to dwell on this for too long, is, what is sending reputation? Sending reputation is kind of a score that, not just these ISPs maintain, but all these email exchange servers and registrars and all that maintain on senders. So what if that score is high, emails go to the inbox. If that score is low, you get blocked, end up in spam folder, whatever it may be. So every action that you take as an email marketer is going to be evaluated by these reputation systems. So the factors that most affect your sending reputation, your ability to reach the inbox, is number one. These are not in any particular order, but number one I've listed is your data quality and list cleanliness. So, if you're just sending garbage data that doesn't exist, your hard bounces, whatever, that's going to hurt your program. Next, your authentication, right? You have to make sure you're authenticating all your communications properly. And this may not be something that is of concern to you, but would be more of a concern of the ESP you work with. And it's their responsibility typically to make sure that that is set up correctly. The HTML content and the code. So this refers to not just the coding of the email. Are you closing all your tags properly? Are you does certain elements exist within your HTML code? And then this also refers to wording and potential spammy wording in your subject lines and in your email creative. For example, several consecutive characters such as $10 signs in a row will get weighted heavier, and your email will have a higher chance of being flagged as spam. Now, while it might not get flagged as spam for your hotmail.com users, you would have a higher chance of people who are hosting their emails with Microsoft Exchange, because it's just a bit tighter, those regulations. They're a little more sensitive to what may be going on in that space. Let's see here. Let's kind of keep going here. Sorry, if there's a question, I'm happy to answer the question. I'm just, I can't toggle between the two at this moment.
We'll do the questions at the end, Bob.
Sounds good, Matt. Barreling ahead. All right. And lastly, user engagement, which is the most important thing when it comes to having a healthy email program. If you're getting opens and clicks, that score is going to go up. You're going to see more inbox delivery and more throughput. If you're not getting user engagement, you're going to see it go the other way. And it's really, there's so many resources available online through a simple Google search to just say, what are average open rates in my industry? MailChimp publishes these all the time. A lot of ESPs publish these all the time, just so you can get a general sense. I'm not going to say that those are that accurate in my opinion, but they're generally will give you a sense of where you're at and if your program is either healthy or not healthy. But the best way to determine if your email program is healthy and you're doing well is to compare yourself to yourself. Are your open rates going up? Are your bounce rates going down? Or vice versa? Then you can kind of get a sense of where you're at. And obviously, we always want things to go up. All right. I already covered this. If your email reputation is high, you'll be able to send more emails faster, bypass spam filters, get into the inbox, and eventually you can even get those emails to arrive with images intact. Now, if your email reputation is low, you'll see more spam folder delivery or blocks, lower throughput, and emails can arrive with images broken, or you can even get these warnings that I've screenshotted there in your mailbox. This is from a Gmail send. And again, not just Gmail, but also people who use G Suite as their company business exchange server. The exact same messages will appear on those emails. And, again, they're both connected. And this is quite common. This happens to a lot of senders, especially new senders out of the gate. If you're, sending from a new IP, you just migrated ESPs, you're bringing a new program to market. That is the most sensitive time for your email program to get through this. All right, let's keep going. So collectively across all the major ISPs in Canada, the States, Europe, and beyond, they all collectively sort of recommend the following. All right, fully authenticate your emails, right? Just goes without saying. Now, keeping your sending volumes consistent. So this is important when you're looking at your email program from a strategic point of view. Crazy spikes, random spikes in your email audiences, data coming from nowhere or that hasn't been sent to before. These things are going to really sort of upset the balance of a healthy email program. So you just need to be aware of that from a strategic point of view. Actively remove uninterested or unengaged customers from your list. This is such a bone of contention with so many marketers because they feel that, the more, the better, the more we can blast and reach people, the better it'll be, higher chance we'll have of opens. But what has been proven time and time again is that if you're not doing this and these dormant people are piling up in your lists, it is going to prevent your emails from reaching inboxes, and even worse, prevent new subscribers to your program from getting their emails to their inbox. So you'll fail to establish a rapport with these new subscribers right off the bat, and your program will just stagnate. Process complaints and unsubscribes in timely fashion. There are a lot of laws and regulations around that. Identify yourself within your emails, have an easy to see opt-out message, and ensure your audiences are targeted. The subject line matches the email. There's a lot of these things are, again, this is all recommended as part of, all the ISPs do recommend this. So this applies equally to the B2C and B2B space. You want to be consistently doing that. And it really does become more sensitive to that B2B space because you're usually talking about professionals, people who are working, who are busy doing stuff when your emails are coming in. All right, so let's talk about managing your own deliverability through this. All right, now I'm not at all by this statement want to discredit any of the third-party deliverability solutions that are out there or providers. They all do fantastic work. I just think that it's great for marketers to really have a grasp of how you can identify issues or manage things from a strategic point of view, so you can understand, what it is you're doing, so you can proactively get ahead of problems. And then you do have those services and people you can work with, to get even deeper into what might be going on within your program, especially as your program's either starting out or reaching very large volumes, and you want to really understand, what more you can be doing to maximize your potential engagement rates. All right. So again, keeping your email volumes consistent. I don't want to go over that too many more times. Sending to users who have showcased engagement within the past 12 months. That's a bit generous. Spamhaus themselves, who's like probably the foremost authority on legitimate versus non-legitimate senders in the world, recommends 6 months. But I mean, I think it's up to every business to sort of tiptoe to find their sweet spot. What is the maximum amount of people you can send to before you start seeing issues? 12 months is a general cutoff. Sometimes you need to get more aggressive there if you need to, but this is just a great practice to kind of get stuff off your list that doesn't need to be there. Remove unsubscribes and complaints in a timely fashion. That speaks for itself. Ensure that your emails, your recipients have an easy time to remove themselves from your mailing list. This is so important because time and time again, and over the course of many years, creative designing agencies and different email marketers will bury that unsubscribe somewhere in the footer of their email, and it's either hard to see or it's in small font, whatever it is, because they don't want people removing themselves from your list. What happens though is if I do want to get off a mailing list and that unsubscribe is nowhere to be seen or that process is complicated, well, it's easy for me to just click the mark as spam button, and that's going to hurt that sender's email program. That's going to cause your reputation to go down. So you're actually doing yourself a huge disservice by making an unsubscribe from your program more difficult. Plus, you miss out on an opportunity to perhaps, get a consumer to change their preferences or to sort of, engage in some other way. Clicking an unsubscribe link within an email or manage my preference sentence within an email counts as an open. It counts as a click. That is healthy for your program. If people want out, get them out as soon as you can. Focus on the people that want to be in there. And again, personalize your email segments and lifecycle communications. It's all about establishing a strong rapport. Customers should be able to quickly identify who you are, with that look and feel of your email, your logo, your colors, all those things, they're super important. And, you're personalizing communications. The more data points you can collect on subscribers and segments you're able to sort of identify within your base, the more targeted you can make your email sends. That's just going to produce much stronger engagement rates, much better rapports with your subscribers. And in a world where email is just one of the many channels that you can be engaging with your consumers with, you want to just be lean and clean and just so you can be as effective as you can be with your email channel, as opposed to any social channels you may be using or anything else you might be, any other ways you might be communicating with your subscribers, say through push or SMS, etc. Carrying on. So when you're looking at your open rates, and I try to think of it in sort of like 3 layers, right? So is my email program successful? We can start at the very top, like, Are my purchases up? Are people buying stuff? Are people going to the website? There's that, right? Obviously, that'll tell you, was your email program successful, or are things going well, especially if you can identify if they came from the email. Then a layer down from that, are my open rates high? Are my conversions high? You can tie that back to a communication or a date time frame. Then you can basically tell, yes, this was a successful message or unsuccessful. And then the next layer after that, we're just looking at direct open rates. This communication had a higher open rate than this previous last week's communication. Obviously, I did a better job. Now, if we add another dimension to your open rate, let's look at it by domain, right? So let's look at all the AOL subscribers, the Comcast, the Gmails, the Yahoos, the Hotmails, everybody. And you look at them individually, and I look at something like this, and I can see that that Gmail open rate, despite being a major part of my universe, is so much lower than some of the other domains. Well, I can clearly tell that there's an issue there. Now, if I had 0 opens somewhere, that would probably indicate there's a block, rather than seeing a few opens. A few opens tells me that, people who consistently open my emails continue to get into the inbox, because these major ISPs all have those heuristic filters. Or people are going into their spam folder, finding my communications, they're clicking, as it may be. But seeing an issue at just one ISP very clearly tells me that there's something more reputation related going on. Maybe there's something more specific that can hone in on. And again, when I see something like this, best thing to do is refer to my kind of top 5 bullet points here. Am I doing these 5 things? If I'm not, or if one of these is falling behind, that could be what's causing this particular issue. So adding another dimension to looking at your engagement rates or your conversion rates or whatever it may be, even purchases, is really going to tell you where you might have an issue. And from there, you now have a better understanding of where you might need to pull up your socks, or where you might need to give it a little bit of attention. This kind of stuff, is really exciting for, deliverability folks, because they have a sense of looking at, and they understand where to really focus in the attention. Now, there's a lot of tools in the industry that can even help you take your deliverability management to the next level. If this is something that you do yourself, or you're just not ready to sort of be regularly working with any sort of deliverability service, there are so many reputation and blacklist monitoring tools out there. I've listed a few there. I'm not going to go through them too in depth, but understand what is your sending domain, what are your sending IPs. There's places where you can scan them, and it's best to scan them and check them before and after a very large volume send. Before any calendar milestones. You have your Black Friday, you have holidays and all that stuff. Anytime you do any sort of major campaigns, definitely you want to check your reputation, your public reputation, blacklisting, just to see if you're in a good spot. How am I doing on time? Oh, 7 minutes. We're going to fly now. There's the Microsoft SNDS program, which I can't recommend enough. This will allow you to get data directly from Microsoft on your campaigns. How are things performing? What are your complaint rates? It even gives you spam trap data, invaluable data. Your ESP has so many reporting tools. Even more basic ESPs offer fantastic tools that you can export data, you can look at it, you can kind of identify where issues may be. So, get to know the tools. You don't have to become an expert, just get to know how to get the data that you need, so you can look at data in a few different dimensions to understand if you have any issues. Compare yourself to other senders in the industry and to other benchmarks, so you understand where you sit and if you're trending in a healthy direction or if things are going down, because that tells you what sort of direction you need to take strategically. Learn more about soft bounces, right? What are they? And this is very critical in the B2B space, because you get those bounce codes that are more obscure. One of the other thing that pile up over time, especially if you've never really done any proper sort of list hygiene, which is basically the next point, is misspelled domains, right? Sending an email to, bob@hotmail.com, Microsoft will say Bob doesn't exist, hard bounce. But sending an email to bob@hotmail.com, spelled HZOTMAILLL.com, that domain does not exist. So it's not there to tell you that it doesn't exist, or that user doesn't exist there. So that address is just going to tumble around your mailing list until you finally take some sort of action against it. Compound that over a course of a few weeks, months, or years, you're going to have thousands, if not tens of thousands or worse, of these addresses that just tumble around and do nothing for you, but make your open rates look lower, your bounce rates look higher, your program suffers. You're also spending more money to deploy email that's not doing anything for you. And then finally, when you're working with your deliverability representative, whether it's the representative at your ESP or the third-party service that you're working with, tell them what you're looking for. Ask them. Tell them where they might see some issues. Ask for that information. They can go in and they can find this information and get you these answers. I'm going to keep going. So This is a tool that we've developed and been working with for a few years that just sort of helps kind of give you an understanding of where your reputation sits across the ISPs you're sending to, and pulls who are all the non-engaged domains. So all the domains where we're seeing 0 opens, right? Not one person of the, in this case, 42 people that we sent to, or 37 people that we sent to at this domain, not one person opened or clicked, right? That seems to be indicative of a deliverability issue, especially in that B2B space, where if you start adding these up, you're going to quickly be into the hundreds, if not thousands, if not tens of thousands of users. It could be because one of these domain registrars has you blocked, or something within your creative is causing this issue. Also, these non-delivering domains. So, for everyone we sent to at, that Gmail typo domain, not one delivered. Why? Because it doesn't exist. The ESP couldn't find gmail.com. It tried, couldn't find it, said, hey, this is a soft bounce, try again later. Get this stuff out. It's great to identify this. Lean down that mailing list so you can focus on the people that want to get your emails, that you can deliver. You're going to see higher opens, higher clicks, more conversion. Now, being successful in the B2B space, I just want to kind of go through this really quickly because we're at the 4-minute mark, and let's just keep rolling here. So, the best philosophy to operate under: garbage in, garbage out. If you're just putting data in, you don't know what kind of you're sending to, you're going to get kind of garbage performance out of it. Keep email design simple and to the point. This is especially important, again, in the B2B space, because you're emailing professionals in many cases, or people who are working. They don't want the clutter. They're less interested about being marketed to and more about utility coming from their email, and what can you do for them? What is it that they want from you? Get that non-performing data out of the program. You're wasting your time, you're wasting your money. Focus on where you can be successful. Think about what is the CX and UX like from the perspective of the customer. And again, as a professional, would you want to receive this? Is this clear to you? Everybody loves really cool creative, but if it fails to sort of hit the nail on the head of what we're trying to achieve, it's not going to do anything for you. Segment your data as soon as possible. And the best time to start segmenting your data is at the time of opt-in. If I can get your email address and a location, if I get your email address and a product preference, anything will help me segment you and send you more relevant communications. And then, of course, work smart, not hard. Automate, place users in CLM journeys, let the program run on itself, let the tools do what they're designed to do. All right. Now, tips that just produce great results all the time. Matt, how am I doing here? I got 2 minutes left. We're going to get there. All right.
2 minutes and 2 questions.
Okay, 2 minutes and 2 questions. Really, really fast. That welcome email is a great way to quickly vet, is this person exist? Is the email address right? Let's get the party started. If you're not sure if something is a good idea from a strategic standpoint, get guidance or don't do it. Keep your subscribers engaged with regular communications. Remember, less is more. More concise communications and to the point is important. And then create those CLM journey experiences. Use those automation tools, dynamic content, personalization, whatever you can do will help you. And then always be testing. This is my favorite one. Test and learn. Different subject lines, different times of the day, whatever it may be. Always be testing, always be learning. This is the very last 2 slides. We're going to go through it really fast and then I'm done. We have a condition and a potential prescription. The condition, low engagement at specific ISPs. What's the prescription? It could be reputation related. Let's cut down the amount of non-engaged people we're sending to. Seeing high soft bounces, determine the cause of the bounces. Is it bad data? Where is it coming from? High hard bounces or blocks. Understand where your problematic data is coming in and figure out what are the data control mechanisms there. How can we improve that? You're seeing spam folder delivery when you're testing or deploying internally. Well, triage, is it related to the content or is it something on your domain and IP? You can definitely find these out through your own testing. And of course, if you have a condition and it's a fever, who knows what the prescription is? It is, of course, more cowbell. And that is that.
All right, we have time for one quick question while we're waiting for our next speaker to accept the window to come up and join us on the panel. But we're going to go with one of the 2 questions. We have a client who wants to email customers that haven't engaged in over 5 years. These are all active customers. Is there a concern with the age of the file?
Completely, there's a concern with the age of the file. So again, this is where I would say you want to really get some strong deliverability advice. You would want to at least scrub that list, get out anything that's going to be problematic to you. I would recommend not hitting that list all at once, slowly. Well, actually, I'd recommend not doing it. But if you're just compelled to do it, there's a lot of different ways you can do it. And I would recommend taking as many of those steps as you can to wean down that list so that is as healthy as it can possibly be, and that it won't mess up the progress that you've made on your program.
Awesome. Thanks very much. There's another question. Maybe if you want to answer it in the chat, there seems to be two in the chat you can answer. After this, we're going to switch out to our next speaker, though. So I wanted to thank you for joining us and sharing your knowledge. Being in the B2C space for deliverability, it's a lot different than the B2C space, although there's a lot of overlap. The differences in the lists tend to be slightly different and how they behave. So it's always great to see sort of a different perspective on email deliverability and how that all functions together. So Bob, thanks very much for joining us. Please do feel free to stick around for the rest of the show. And
I absolutely will. Thanks for the opportunity.
Great seeing you again.